Hey there, y'all. Welcome back to another Tim Talks Christian Rock. Tim Risto here. Hope you're doing awesome today, and may God bless your day going forward from here. Today, we're going to take a look at this little album right here, Steve Camp's 1984 classic, Fire and Ice. It has been reissued on CD, remastered in this collector's edition, thanks to Girder Records, courtesy also of Capital Christian Music Group. This is a 1984 album. This was an album that was actually one of my early influences as I was getting into Christian music. Favorite song off this album, Squeeze, track number 6, was one that I heard over and over on the radio back in the day, on Christian radio. Loved it in the 80s. This one just, every time I hear that song now, too, it takes me back to that time period when I first heard this song. Love it, love it, love it. Great track, and actually a great album. This is one of Camp's, or probably his hardest rocking album, actually. This wasn't my initial exposure to him. Actually, I think Squeeze was. I think that was the first song I heard by him. But I actually got his album right before this, which was It's a Dying World, came out in 83. Loved the title track of that, and even the version of Light Your Candle, which is on here. The initial version was on It's a Dying World, and I loved that version for its a little harder guitar sound than what this one has. This one mellows out a little bit more than that version, I think. But that one had that album, It's a Dying World, had some rock elements to it, and so did his follow-up album in 85, I believe it was, Shake Me to Wake Me. All three of those are kind of his more rock-leaning albums, but this one by far has the most consistent rock songs on it. There's some mellow stuff on here too, but it certainly has the most rock-oriented tunes on it, or rock pop-oriented tunes on it. So anyway, we'll take a look at this Girder release today. I'll show it off a little bit. Look at the O-ring, the CD, the disc art, the art card, photo card on that. And then we'll also take a look at the original Sparrow CD and vinyl release, which I've got in my collection too. Probably not a long video. We'll just talk briefly about these releases, mainly about the new one, and a little bit about the music on the album too. So let's get going. All right, yeah, this is from 1984 and just reissued here on CD once again. I think it was originally on CD, vinyl, and cassette. I don't have the cassette. I did back in the day, but I don't anymore. But anyway, this is the, as far as I know, the first CD reissue of this album. It's been remastered. Again, this collector's edition includes a collector's card and a 12-page booklet with lyrics. It is very nicely done, as is the reputation of Girder Records products. I've also listened to this whole CD, and it sounds very good. The remastering definitely enhances things. There's a clarity to it. There's a little more nuance, some subtlety that I can tell. And the guitar work, a little more spaciousness to it. Just sounds really good. Comes with an O-ring, which if you'll notice here, the space on the cover art here on the O-ring is different than, you can see through the case here, the space here, which is very black behind the sword, where there you can see stars, and it's got more of the blue-black space look to it. So kind of a redesign on the O-ring. So you get a little different cover art, you could say, which I think is kind of cool. It's also this hype sticker, which is not a sticker. It is actually printed, literally printed on the O-ring. So it's not something that can come off if you thought it was. It's part of the printing itself. So that's the front. Here's the back, which matches the CD back cover art as well. Again, the picture Steve Camp, track listing there. Again, it's an O-ring. There's the top, if you want to see the top, and the bottom there as well. So that's that for the O-ring. Very cool. And for, I've mentioned it before, but for collectors like myself, I love getting little extras like the O-rings. It makes it fun. CD comes in a jewel case. Open it up, and you've got the collector's card, the booklet, and the CD here. We'll take a look at the CD. Here's the disc art, which is very nicely done. Again, there you can tell this is the original disc art. It has the black space, not the redesign from the O-ring. The artwork from the front cover and the tray, you can tell nicely there too, with the earth, iced over earth. Here's the collector's card with that Steve Camp photo. That really, I think, was the only photo for the photo session for this album, because it's used over and over again. Here's the back of the photo art card. So it says here, Legacy Series number 42. It says here, moving away from the predominantly adult contemporary sound of his earlier albums, Fire and Ice, released in 1983. Actually, the years on here say 84. In 1983 on Sparrow Records, spotlighted a harder rocking sound and featured some of Camp's most fiery and iconic songs. Listed at number 96 in CCM Magazine's The 100 Greatest Albums in Christian Music, the album reached number 14 on the Billboard Top Inspirational Album chart. So there you go. So I'm not sure now. There's a question as to whether it's 83 or 84. The original CD actually lists 83. The Girder one here on the back says Sparrow Records 84. So, and Discogs listed it as 84. So interesting. Interesting. Here's a closer look at the 12-page booklet cover art. There's the back, which has credits and I guess some little bit of liner notes. We'll talk about those in a minute. Inside the booklet, you've got, again, that photo of Camp along with the lyrics. That's pretty much it. There aren't really any other photos or anything. It's just the nice graphic design by Scott Waters again throughout, and then just the lyrics and thank yous there on the back. And this album rocks, and I think it's all the better for it. I really do think this album is one of the best representations of Steve Camp's more really rock-sounding vocals. The writing, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Probably the producing obviously had an influence for this particular album. And, of course, Camp's vocals and just the rock sound, how that really combined well. I wish he'd done more rock-oriented stuff. Like I said, there was some on It's a Dying World. There was some on the follow-up to this album, Shake Me to Wake Me. There was even one on the album after Shake Me to Wake Me, which is 1986's One on One. The song Cheap Grace on there was like the only rock, or maybe you could say rock pop, tune on there. Everything else was mellow. It just felt so out of place. I really felt like that song probably was from maybe the Shake Me to Wake Me sessions or something like that. But kind of wish there'd been a compilation of just all of Camp's rock stuff. He always kind of floated a bit back and forth, particularly during this time period, between mellow CCM stuff and the rock stuff. I wish he just fully embraced rock and gone that route for several albums. But again, this is the closest I think we have to his most consistent rock-leaning, rock-oriented album, although there are mellow things on here too. But so why is it? Why was this more rock-oriented? I think one key factor, there were a number of great players here that were part of this album. This was produced by John Rosasco and Steve Camp. I'm not really familiar with Rosasco, but he obviously had an influence in the sound of the album, being the producer. It was executive produced by Stephen C. Wire, engineered by Wally Grant at Weddington Studio, North Hollywood, California. So engineered in Hollywood, California, which is interesting when you hear the song Squeeze. I think of the lyrics of that a little bit. But anyway, there were a number of great talents involved here. On the keyboards, you have, of course, Steve Camp and John Rosasco, the producer, was involved in some of that too, along with Smitty Price. Guitar was Marty Walsh and the great Dan Huff. Bass was Don Petrucci and Gary Alun from Whiteheart. Drums, Keith Edwards and the great Joe English, another great familiar name there. A number of different people. Background vocals, you got Steve Camp, of course, Rob Frazier, and many, many others, including Joe English. But the Frazier element is something I want to talk about. Frazier was not only involved in the background vocals, he was involved in writing many, many of the songs on here. I'm not exactly sure of the balance of collaboration, but you can tell on the songs that Camp and Frazier collaborated on. I assume Camp mainly wrote the lyrics, but I'm sure he was involved in the music as well. But that the ones he collaborated together with Frazier on have a stronger rock leaning to them. Frazier, of course, Rob Frazier, known for having been involved with Petra on the Wash Is Whiter Than album, I believe. He did vocals, and I think was involved in some of the writing on those tunes as well. He went on to have his own solo career, had about, 2 or 3 different, maybe 4 different rock-oriented albums during the 80s in particular. So, he he knew a thing or two about rock. And so his involvement here, I think, is a strength of the album. You look at track 1, Upon This Rock, that was written by Camp and Frazier, and that has that's a good intro track. It's got a harder rock edge to it than much of his other stuff does. It's followed up by track 2, It Is Good, which was written by Camp Frazier and the producer John Rosasco. That one's got more of a Caribbean flair to it, but it's still kind of upbeat musically. It's got a nice feel to it. Then you've got the ballad one, Love's Not a Feeling, which was written by Camp and Frazier. It's kind of a duet with Michel Pillar. That one kind of breaks the mold, or my theory a little bit, because it's much more of a mellow tune. But, it's the ballad. Heart of Stone, the next track, written by Camp and Frazier. Again, nice song, much more of a return to a rock-oriented song. That's followed up by Living in a Laodicea, which is strictly written by Camp, and that one's very mellow. I think that's kind of a popular one for some Steve Camp fans, but it's very mellow. It's not one that I'm really attracted to much. Squeeze, of course, my favorite track by Camp and Frazier, again. Fire and Ice, the title track, Camp and Frazier, great track, another one of my top 10 favorite Steve Camp tracks. Light Your Candle, of course, which I mentioned came from his It's a Dying World album. That was written just by Camp. And then that's followed up by What Would the Devil Say? Again, a much more rock-oriented tune, written by Camp and Frazier. And the album closes out with Where Are the Heroes, which is written by Camp. And again, that's a mellower one. And so that one's okay. That one I kind of like. But there you go. So I think Frazier's influence, obviously probably the producer's influence, helped to shape this into more of a rock-oriented effort. I just wish we'd seen more of that from Camp. I wish he just fully embraced it. His vocal styles, and with the right producer and the right writer of songs, I think could produce a great, great rock album from him. But never quite got that, but this I think is the closest thing. And it is a good album. I do like this album. I listen to it a lot. I have over the years. And so I do like a lot. I mean, there's tracks I skip, but the rock-oriented ones are the ones that I definitely listen to the most. This remastered edition by Girder Records is a fine edition. You would do well to add it to your collection if you're a Steve Camp fan. And if you're not, and you've never heard Camp before, this is a great album to start with. This is very nicely done. I've listened to the whole album. It's, again, remastered. It sounds good. There's more nuance to it. It's greater clarity to it. There's even a little more spaciousness to it. They did a good job with the remastering, and it sounds good. I can tell an improvement over the original version. So very good, well worth it. Kudos to Girder for putting this out. It is a great, great edition. Pick it up while you can. I think it's limited to either 300 or 500 copies, one of the two. Not sure which, but go check it out at Girder Records and pick up your copy. It is a very nice edition. Quickly, let's look at the original CD put out by Sparrow, which I've had for a number of years now. Mine, of course, is a used one, so the case is broken. Here's the original disc art. Quite a change from the remastered collector's edition one. This was kind of the standard Sparrow printing for disc art. And again, the tray has, these are the old trays back in the day, nothing fancy there. By the way, the back is also nothing fancy, just the standard kind of Sparrow printing of the day. The track listing and a few credits on black. The cover art, of course, is the cover art. And this is just a little insert, a folded insert, not a booklet. So what you got inside was basically some credits and little liner notes, mainly credits on one side and then blank white on the other. So that's what you get. So a very, very simplified version, nothing too fancy. This is pretty easy to find too. I could find the original if you're just jonesing for the original all over eBay and all sorts of places. I've seen it in half-price books and all sorts of places. It's very easy to find. The original was pretty widely produced, I guess, because I've seen it a lot over the years. Here's the original Sparrow vinyl as well. We'll take a look at. The neat thing about this, of course, as with those vinyls, is you get cover art and everything nice and big, so it's really cool. So it's obviously used, seen some, got some little ring wear and some nicks and dents and everything. Not a super great edition, but it's most decent one that I found. I think I just picked this up last year. I do really like Steve Camp's logo there, which I don't think I'd seen anywhere else until I picked up this vinyl. It's probably something he should have used more often. It's a very cool looking logo. Had he continued more in the rock vein, I think that would have been an awesome logo to continue with. Inside is an insert, just a very basic printed lyric sheet with both sides, and then the thank yous that you saw printed in the CD, are from here, obviously. But very simple black and white insert sheet. Black vinyl with the standard Sparrow record label of the day on it. Very simple, the Sparrow logo and that kind of gradient tone, earth tone looking coloration, and the track listing, side 1 and side 2. Thinner vinyl, nothing super thick, certainly not 180 gram. Very nice edition. I do like listening to this. I've listened to it several times over the last few months, and I always like coming back to the vinyl because I'm a big vinyl head anyway, so enjoyable to listen to as well. And that's pretty easy to find as well, similar to the CD. I think you can. The vinyl is relatively easy to find at a decent price. One other thing I failed to mention earlier that I do want to note is here on the Girder Remastered reissue of the CD, you'll notice the track listings and the times listed for them. And if you were to look at the original Sparrow release, the times, track listings, times are different. The lengths for each of the tracks listed vary, in some cases widely, in some cases subtly, compared to the lengths of the tracks listed here. The Girder one has it correct. Okay, the Sparrow one has incorrect lengths to the tracks listed, where the Girder one has them all correct. So I thought that was a nice touch and attention to detail that Girder caught and corrected compared to the original Sparrow release. So that's nice. These match when you import it or have it digitally. These links, of course, match with how they show up digitally. So nice touch there. So anyway, that's my quick look at Steve Camp's Fire and Ice 1983 or 1984 album. I'm not sure which for sure. Again, I see both years showing up in different places. Seems like it's 1984. But and that It's a Dying World was actually 83, so I'm going to go with that. But anyway, what do you think of this album? Did you listen to it back in the day? I did. I loved it. Still love it. It is a classic album. This is a wonderful release. Again, pick it up if you're a fan. If you have not heard Steve Camp again, this is a good place to start. So let me know in the comments below what you think, whether you're a Steve Camp fan, what did you think of this album, and whether you intend to pick it up. I'll put a link to Girder Records down below as well, too. That's all I got for today, y'all. Have a great rest of your day. Go out and listen to some Christian rock. Make it Steve Camp's Fire and Ice today. You'll be glad you did. That's all I got for today, y'all. Have a great one. Go out, enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, above all else, stay in God's Word. Blessings, y'all. Take care. Have a good one.